Doug, and I'm here talking to Jeremy. Hi, Jeremy.
Hi.
And he's Jeremy Bentley, and he's the creator behind the Reclamation Festival from 1995.
Whew, such a long time ago.
So long ago. So freaking long ago. It's 2017 now, and we're recording this. And why are we talking about Reclamation right now?
Well, I guess we're talking about it right now because I was trying to digitize a whole bunch of VHS tapes that I had in a box. And I noticed that I had several from Reclamation that I could not remember who I got them from. And I digitized them along with other videotapes that I had. And you found out via me posting clips via Instagram, then connected to Facebook, that I had footage, and you're like, oh, you recognize the footage.
I shot that. Yeah. So it's footage that I recorded 17 years ago in that park in Lancaster. But it's for a show that you put on. So tell us a little bit about what Reclamation was.
Well, Reclamation was the first music show that I ever put on. Also happened to be the first day-long festival outdoors in a park. At the time, it was called Neffsville Community Park. Now it is called Manheim Township Community Park, but it's still the same location. There are several pavilions and playground equipment, baseball fields, stuff like that. And that is where I had seen some other local warm weather shows happen. People would run out that pavilion for other stuff, and I thought it would be cool to do a festival, and just tried to get any band at the time that I knew that in this case were bands on the Christian independent music scene.
Local. They're all fairly local for the most part.
Yes, all local to the Lancaster County, Lebanon County area. With one exception, Goaty Hook was from based out of Fairfax, Virginia, I think at the time.
All around the Fairfax area, outside of Washington D.C.
Yeah, the idea was just to have a kind of day-long free music fest and try to get people in the Lancaster area, if anybody came, based on flyers that I hung up, interested in music that I had discovered that was based out of the Lebanon, Pennsylvania area, and that happened to be Christian based bands that were independent and underground, which up till a few years before that I did not know even existed.
Well, that's the thing.
Growing up. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, because up till a certain point in my childhood, I was only used to the mainstream Christian music radio station, as far as any Christian music that I had ever heard up to that point. And I ended up discovering it by way of not being interested in that Christian music anymore that my parents only allowed me to listen to, and getting into hair metal, and then segued into punk rock. Found some local independent music that was happening in the area that I got into, which eventually led me to want to be in a band, which got me playing drums, which got me to start a band, and several different bands, until I ended up finding out that there was an independent Christian music scene based out of Lebanon, PA at the time.
For those who may not understand, but we had a bit of a culture there, and it's not your normal. When you say Christian music, people think of holy praise music and things like that. This is more rock bands, more alternative rock bands, stuff that was part of the real music culture, popular music culture, I should say, that was out there. It wasn't necessarily church music, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, I was surprised to find that, like I said, I mean, I guess now I think of it as silly, because now there's not much of a separation between people that are out there playing today that happen to be Christian or happen to not be Christian and happen to be in bands, and maybe some of them directly sing lyrical content that's biblical or in some way some kind of testimony, or trying to have allow people to learn about their spiritual lives and spread the word about that. But some people just kind of sing about their lives. I think at that time there was still a little bit of a separation, even in independent Christian music, because a lot of the independent Christian music still did have lyrical content that was biblically inspired, for sure. But due to its kind of independent underground nature, I mean, it was just people that were Christians and grew up in a Christian lifestyle and went to church and stuff like that, and were raised on worship music or raised on Christian radio, that also were into other independent music that was happening. So it was kind of like sort of like I don't know if it's called a mirror, but it was kind of like coinciding with independent music that was happening at the time. It just happened to be with more Christian based lyrics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, the rise, we had a considerable scene. I mean, it did grow out of the more mainstream Christian rock or Christian contemporary music scene that was built up through the local radio station WJTL FM 90.3, and maybe some other stations around there, like some college stations like at Messiah and things like that, that really promoted music that was built up through the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and but it inspired a lot of kids to make their own music, and we had a lot of them, a lot of good bands actually, than I'd say most areas, and we really, I think, we built up a good community of people, not just bands, but people who were eager to go see them, and so that helped build something like Reclamation, helps build something like JAVACASA that Chuck and John and Rhonda and Mo and Jeremy and all the other people in my group made a thing called JAVACASA. That's a very roundabout sentence, but yeah. So we had different pockets of concerts happening all over, everywhere from Paoli to Chambersburg to Philadelphia at Drexel College with Scott Hatch. So there was a nice little cycle of music, and you added to it with the Reclamation show. Tell me a little bit about that day and why you went about bringing in those bands.
Well, I think that as you were just saying, there was a lot of it was exciting. There was a lot of really cool music that was happening with Christian kids that weren't following the whatever prescribed musical industry path that was happening at the time that led to contemporary Christian music, otherwise known as CCM, that played on the Christian radio station WJTL, that were really just trying to express themselves musically and doing a great job making like really cool, original, fun music. And it was through the fact that I discovered that scene through a friend. I give major credit to my friend Ron Wade at the time, who got me into a band that led me to see shows in Lebanon while that was going on. And it was just it was very exciting. I was like, wow, I can't believe that there's all this cool music. If people that aren't familiar with Christian music saw that there were bands that were making just really cool, original, like independent music, that I also knew from just seeing like punk rock shows or independent rock shows in the Lancaster area, if they got a chance to see this music too, they would be like, wow, that's actually kind of cool. It's not church music, or it's not like people singing in 4-part harmony around an organ, or whatever conceptions people had of Christian music at the time. So what I really wanted to do with that festival is hopefully get other people into it and get other people to see it's like, hey, you know, the world of Christian independent music can exist in the world of non-Christian independent music, and it could kind of be a whole thing. And I named it Reclamation at the time I was a really big fan of the band Fugazi, and that was one of their songs. And my idea of calling the festival Reclamation was kind of being very evangelical myself at the time. I wanted to reclaim hearts for Christ. So that was the whole idea there. I called it that because it would hopefully be a doorway into getting people into Christianity by seeing that Christian music could actually be cool, and they could have a good time and listen to cool music, but also
a good foundation for brotherhood, things like that, just sort of bringing people together.
Right? Yeah. And so that's the way I named the festival. So you asked me about the specific day. Maybe before we get to the day, I guess I'll just mention too that not really knowing how to successfully book and promote a festival or a show or whatever, only kind of seeing it from the peripherals of other shows I'd been to, I just kind of did whatever I could. I contacted whoever I could about it. I made a whole lot of flyers, a whole lot of photocopies, posted them at local colleges and music stores and all kinds of stuff, hoping to get people out. Hoping to get people out to the show. And I don't know if at the time that I had a connection at WJTL. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We all learn in the trenches. So
yeah,
we all pretty much learned as we went as well. So yeah.
Yeah, luckily I'd met enough people either connected through you guys, through JAVACASA, who were putting on shows in Lebanon, that I was able to pull together sound crew for the show, which I think was run by Chuck Zook of JAVACASA, to the best of my recollection there. And the day of, it was an entire day-long festival. I think the first band probably started at noon, and I think that I had it set up in hour slots where each band would start on the hour with 45-minute sets and a 15-minute changeover time. And I think from watching those videos, I haven't watched them since I digitized them, I think a lot of people used my drum set that day. I could be wrong about that. I'll have to go back and check, but I think that I had my drum set available as to kind of speed up changeover. May not have been the case, but yeah, I mean, that day was kind of, as it was going on, it was kind of a blur because I was trying to play in the festival because two of the bands that I was in were in the festival, and I was trying to run things in the background. I was introducing bands. I was trying to run a food concession so we'd have enough money to pay the final band, Goaty Hook, at least give them some gas money. It was just a crazy day. It's definitely a blur. Like I remember hearing some music and seeing some music. I don't think I was really actively involved in the audience that day, and just really watching the bands as much as I was watching it all from the sidelines while doing other stuff.
Yeah, I was pretty much there part of the time, watching the shows and watching my camera and making sure that it was running and that it would get stopped at the right time, pull out the different tape when between bands. Thankfully, I was able to record an entire show per tape without getting cut off. Unfortunately, I didn't start until later in the day, and I did not get like the first 2 or 3 bands. I think I started with Few Loose Screws or something.
Yeah, or if Mack the Coffee Man was before Few Loose Screws, I can't remember exactly the order, but I think I had Call Me Betty booked on that day. I know that I had Seven Sounded, which was the side band that I had that I sang for, which I'm glad you didn't get any video footage of that because I digitized another videotape, and I mean, I think that people were into it. Some people were into it at the time, but you always kind of look back at stuff that you did 20 years ago, and it's just like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing that was. But I mean, we definitely were enjoying it at the time when we were doing it, and it was a lot of fun. And I think Seventh Sounded opened the day, and then it might have been Quickie Mart or Call Me Betty if they played. See, I can't even remember if they played or not. I have a feeling that I booked them, but I can't remember if I did or not. But yeah, a couple bands played, I guess, before the video footage that you captured.
We have
Then
like
it was
5 bands, 5 different videos, complete end to end, which are on this channel, this YouTube channel, that'll have all that. So I'm releasing them one by one. I don't know if I'm releasing this before or after, but we'll see. I might be listening to this well after watching all the other videos. Who knows?
Yeah, we had a few loose screws and Dog Named Cat and Jawbone Hill, and Cody Hook closed out the day.
Mm-hmm.
I think it may have been like Jawbone Hill right before Cody Hook. I feel like they were towards the end of the day.
They were, yeah. You can see the sun going down and children still swinging on the swings that's behind the band as Jawbone Hill is playing. The fun thing for me is to actually watch the audience as at different points to see as time goes on. Unfortunately, the one point where Few Loose Screws has a donut fight is a favorite and not so much of a favorite moment of mine, because my camera got winged by a donut, which took some cleaning in order to continue the rest of the day.
That was an unexpected surprise, not very welcome, because I was responsible for the pavilion and cleaning up the trash and stuff like that, and I was just like, oh, why are they? I guess they had passed out bags that had donuts in them before their set started, and
powdered donuts.
Powdered donuts.
Yeah.
And I guess it's they must have let people know at some point in time during their set that they were gonna have a donut fight.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but yeah, at one point it was just donuts being thrown everywhere, and I was just like, I mean, at the time I was kind of like, interested in everybody having fun and just having a good time, enjoying music and whatever. But at the same time, I was like, I had my responsible hat on.
Yeah. No.
So I was trying to keep things orderly and trying to keep things from being a mess. I think though, I mean, we definitely had at one point in time, we must have had a complaint from neighbors because the police did show up, and I had to talk to the police at a certain point in time during the day. And I guess they really just wanted to make sure that we were going to stop the music at a decent time, because maybe some just neighbors around the area, like all the loud noise that was going on, must have put in a complaint.
Yeah.
So I was out there dealing with the police. At one point, I was watching in horror as the donut fight was going on. All kinds of stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I mostly just have, as a lot of people do, they kind of just have a fond memory of the day. I'm sure I was really stressed out that day.
Oh yeah. I mean, we did I don't know how many shows. We did dozens upon dozens of shows over a number of years, and every day was always still stressful. It was something we knew how to do after a while, and we were pretty solid on it, but it still was always like day of, and just hoping that the bands, more than anything, not even the audience, but the bands, were not going to destroy the equipment that we spent lots of money on. And yeah, it happens sometimes. Somebody throws down a mic or kicks a monitor the wrong way or spills water on something, and somehow that's cool to them. But thankfully donuts are somewhat easily biodegradable.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, it wasn't a terrible thing. But given everything else going on today, I was like, now I gotta be concerned about this kind of thing too. After that, over the years, I managed to be involved in promoting and booking some other shows here and there. And yeah, I mean, every single show that I ever booked, I was always like stressed out during it. I was always stressed out beforehand. Like, I wanted to try to get as much promotion happening as I could, passing out flyers, talking to people. But yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, because I definitely didn't enjoy like the stress of all that responsibility. but then, you know, you'd have like a good show and the music would be cool and you'd be like, yeah, I got to do that again. And then you do it again and they're just like, oh, this again. It's like,
right. We know it well. We know it well. But it was fun, and that's one of the great things. It's that terror joy that we had in that era, putting on shows for people and watching them come out, sometimes not even knowing who the bands were, and just coming out and just having a great time, just either seeing their friends and or enjoying the music. So discovering something new.
I mean, what you guys were doing in Lebanon when you started doing more shows at Gap Coffee House was definitely part of the inspiration for that festival. Like, what got you into doing that? Into putting on shows?
I actually worked backstage with Creation Concerts for a number of years. And the only reason I got into that was because I used to work at Hershey Park. And whenever there would be a big concert coming through, like Petra or Whiteheart or something, Creation would come in, and I'd go, even on the off season, I'd be working at Hershey Park. I worked in the leather and candles making and stuff like that. So in the cold months, we'd be in there just building up stock. And at lunch, I'd sneak into the arena, sit down, and being the nerd I am, I would just take notes in a notebook on everything that was happening in the arena. Like, oh, John walks in, says hello to everybody, walks out at 3:15 p.m. Sound check at the beginning, like really dumb stuff. Speakers are going up. They're laying the back line. They're doing, I'm just putting all this information down in a notebook, and it still exists somewhere.
I was going to say, I'm very intrigued, and I would love to see some scanned pages of this notebook.
If I can find it, I will put that out there, because I still get not mocked, but I still get joked around with Fred McNaughton from WJTL, who's a good friend. That's how he and I first met, because my friend Brian Smith introduced us, and eventually through that meeting, got me and a friend of mine to join them to do a show, just hauling in the gear and hauling out the gear at the end of the night in a show in Maryland for Sandy Patty. And then eventually that was our trial run, I guess, and we ended up being the runner for just nearly every single Creation show throughout the early 90s. So I not only got to watch concerts, I got to live backstage, eat the amazing food that the amazing ladies made, which Marty Shaughnessy's wife was a part of, and that's how they met. It's all tied together. It's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's all connected. But yeah, so I would do that. I'd drive bands back and forth to the hotel, to the airport, whatever, take them shopping. I took the Newsboys shopping once. Got lost in the middle of the night with the Newsboys. I had way too many Newsboys stories. But I mean, just every CCM band. I once saw Star Trek with the Newsboys and Stephen Curtis Chapman. That's the kind of just weirdness I was involved with. And this is after years of watching the bands as a normal fan in the at Creation concerts all through Lancaster, and also did the Creation Festival. So all that got me this Jones to be a part of the backstage, and I still was at the time, but I wanted to do my own concerts. I wanted to do smaller things, and I helped out a little bit at the Coffee House DJing a little bit, and eventually I met Chuck Zook, and he had a really strong desire and interest to build up his sound support skills, and put on shows. And I don't know who recommended him come my direction. Sorry if I don't remember, but we built it all up. And eventually, when the people who were running the Gap Coffee House, who originally brought in bands like Insanity Bush and the Somethings and things like that, when those people left, the guy who owned the facility, the rest of the diner that was taking place in, he asked us to take up that role, and that's how JAVACASA started. Me and a small group of friends just sort of took over the booking, and eventually we moved on to on stage.
Before you got had the name JAVACASA, had you booked any shows just at the Gap
No,
Coffee House?
yeah, we booked a few shows at the Gad Coffee House. We brought in Goaty Hook for the first time. We brought in, well, again, repeated different bands that had been there before, Jawbone Hill and things like that. But it's, for the most part, it was a struggle at the time between us and the owner, because we were just in our 20s, and we were really not looking to be there every week. But he would sometimes come in and go, "Hey, I want to have this band come in. They said they want to come in," and we're like, "No, that doesn't really fit with our scheme of things. That band, maybe they're good, maybe they're nice people, maybe they're wonderful, good Christians. That's great, but it doesn't really fit with our audience." And because it was usually like older parents with their children, they're all playing ukuleles or something. I don't know. It was probably cute, but it was really just an old people's praise and worship band, and that, as good as that is, it's not what we were doing. And that there's a time and a place for all that stuff, but it just wasn't us. And so very often we would step out and just not do that. And he'd put on a show, and 5 people would show up because there was a thing where people would just go there just to hang out.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just eventually the tension got a little bit too tight, and we're like, you know what, we really want to find another place to go. And we would drive by the On Stage every so often on Cumberland Street and just go look up at it and go, man, that they used to have Iron Maiden play in there. Honestly, they did.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it used to be a metal show kind of place. I think the Rush album cover, which one it is, it's the one with the guy standing on the star. That somehow, I think that was etched onto the window at some place of a kitchen. It used to be a metal show venue after it was a movie theater. It used to be an old time movie theater, obviously, but a guy eventually took it over as a catering venue, even though it stank and it was musty and it was gross. But people would have their wedding receptions there, or quinceaneras, or whatever they want to have there. And eventually we approached him one time, and he just sort of looked at us and laughed, like, yeah, I don't think we're going to do anything with you guys. You guys just seem like wide-eyed kids who are going to just throw a bunch of bad influences into my building and lose me a ton of money. So yeah, we went and we did a show at the fire station just to raise money to, just a benefit show. And that was really popular. It did really well.
I remember that show. I was there.
Made the freaking T-shirt with the llama and the frog. That's my art. I'm no artist, but that's my art. You're the artist. So, but that's my one claim to fame. You'll see that throughout the Reclamation videos, people wearing the JAVACASA T-shirt.
I'm gonna look for it now.
So that's also one of the things I really like about those videos, is that I kept the video running, and before I uploaded them, I left the before and after the show started. There's sometimes a really long build up to the band actually starting, and a really long burn down after the band has stopped playing, where you just see people walking back and forth in front of the camera, just picking up gear, dropping stuff down, and just talking to each other. And you're like, I know that guy. He now probably has 3 kids. And, I had a crush on that girl. Oh, and then now, she's a mother of 5 now. She's living somewhere else in the country. Or I'm still good friends with that person. It's just really weird to see that. And I think people who are watching that will get a nice little kick out of going finding themselves if they were at those shows.
Yeah, I mean, you look at all those people that maybe some of them you're still in contact with today, and you're just like, that person was young, and apparently I was young once like that.
Yes, you're all young and thin and beautiful. I mean, we just saw Jawbone Hill play with the Rain Children a few months ago, back in May 2017, here in Lancaster, at the WJTL studios. And it's so weird to see them see the footage of them back there at Reclamation and how they look now, and I don't think they have aged. I don't think I think the
Dan Erb
hairstyles
looks exactly the same, except his hair is a different color. That's all.
Yeah, that's it. He's just gone white now, so that's about it. But the big difference you see when you watch Goaty Hook, obviously hasn't played in a long time, but I've seen Goaty Hook probably next to Rain Children. I've seen Rain Children more than any other local band, only because Chuck and I used to do sound support for them whenever they did a show in the area or outside the area. I would just help lift speakers and stuff. But beyond Rain Children, I've seen Goaty Hook more than any other band, and seeing them play back then, they're playing at light speed.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I cannot believe how fast those songs were. I mean, when you're at a show, sometimes you pick up on the speed of the music. Can especially pick up on the speed of music if it feels like the band's playing slower than what you remember. But sometimes you're just caught up in the energy and you're just like, whoa, here comes that song, and you're going at light speed, so it doesn't matter that the band's going at light speed because you've met that speed with them.
Right.
And your energy is the same spot. But then you go back and you see videotapes or hear recordings, live recordings, and yeah, Goaty Hook, I mean, they were a band that when I saw them play, the few times I'd seen them play in the Lebanon area for shows that JAVACASA would do, and maybe I saw them at some other shows I can't quite remember, but I was just like, wow, this band is so. And I mean, they were probably a big inspiration in me wanting to do Seventh Sounded, because I was like, here's this band that just has so much energy, and I remember just trying to be as energetic as possible, being like the singer of a band, and but yeah, I mean, I was like, these guys got to play Reclamation. It would be such a great closer. Like, the energy's just gonna be so great. They're always jumping around, man. Today their knees must just be like, their cartilage must be all gone.
Conrad. I'm still good friends with Conrad, and when he plays with his band, they don't play so much anymore because his wife's kids, his stepkids, have now grown up and gone to college. So they don't do as many shows anymore with his family band that he has, so called Dive Bomber. But yeah, he's still bothered. He does the jumps. He's 17 years older, or 22 years older than he was in that video, and he's still doing the jumps because he still weighs like 110 pounds. Hollow bones like a bird. But yeah, no, he still has the energy, and each of the guys still play, I think, a little bit in their own way. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it's exciting to see, to look back in the past and not be too embarrassed by what you were involved in back then. So.
Well, then Goaty Hook eventually got signed to Tooth and Nail Records, right?
Right.
Or was it their other imprint that they had? I forget.
They were on Tooth and Nail.
It was Tooth and Nail, okay.
But the thing is, that I think Reclamation is a nice little showcase kind of piece, because only less than 2 months later is their first trip to Cornerstone together. We rode with them to taking a caravan of vehicles to Illinois. We slept overnight in Springfield, Ohio, and watched Back to School on TV, waking up in the morning, which kept us from getting on the road as early as we wanted. But we all had a nice little road trip all the way out to Illinois, and that was the year that they played to some crazy acclaim at like the seven ball tents, I think it was. And
that sounds familiar. Yeah.
That magazine, 7-Ball magazine. They had already been on Scott Hatch's compilation. They were going to be put on 7-Ball compilation. And that's when they started getting their first people pitching them for record contracts. They really blew up that year. So your show is kind of a little microcosm of them playing their little demos that they did. I don't think they had any. I don't know if they had any Sumo Surprise stuff, which was their first Tooth and Nail album. I don't know if they had any of those songs in that set or not. I can't recall, but
their singer Joel played the saxophone.
Yep.
who's a saxophone player, but I mean, it wasn't a regular feature in the band, but he played the saxophone at least the last song that they did that night.
Actually, that was a staple of one of their shows, because they would usually finish with that song for the most part, and it was usually him blowing out that sax.
Yeah, just like some kind of, I forget. I think there was a whole saxophone solo section
Yep.
or whatever too.
Oh yeah. I think it was Money. The song was Money. Money, money,
Okay,
money,
yeah.
money, 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 money. Yeah, they were good at really driving a lyric home. So
yeah.
But yeah, they were. That's what endeared us to them, because they were so fun and they were so exciting, and there was unlike anything else we were seeing. They weren't afraid to be fun and stupid, and really have a good time. So, and the audience obviously picked up on that. So, and they didn't eat donuts. So, no offense to anybody else. I'm kidding. No, but yeah, I think they've had other things they've thrown into the audience, which, yeah, I have way too many stories about them. So, but we're here about Reclamation. So, Reclamation. For me, that was just a good day that I can't believe we're still talking about, just because I was lucky enough. I had a VHS camcorder, and I was going to use the hell out of it. So, and we've captured a moment in time.
That was something that I've never seen, is video footage of a Dave Seyfried band. I'm sure that he may have collected some over the years, but that was one of the bands that didn't end up getting video recorded that day. But I mean, I first saw him at Gap Coffee House performing with the Somethings, and I was just like, who's this guy with this soulful, like, beautiful singing voice? But he had such charisma and personality.
Yeah, well costumed always.
Yeah, I mean, he just had such confidence, and just man, like, the first time I ever talked to him, I was just like, oh, this guy's so much fun. And then from there, he went on to do Quickie Mart, which was, I think it was just kind of like, some of the songs they did were just heavier versions of the Something songs, I think, and they wrote other songs. But he just kind of had a fun way about, like, involving the people, like, that played in his band. He came up with names for everybody, and it was always some kind of clever, like, pun in some way. And for the life of me, I can't remember any of them.
I imagine that when I would see him, it was always an event, because it was always, and I so regret not getting any footage at Reclamation of him. But it's always, I always assumed that he was just making a lot of this stuff off the top of his head. It was just so done in such a way that it was like stand-up comedy. It was improv.
Yeah, I think that's what always made a show with one of his bands interesting, is that he just had the ability to just stuff would just come out of his head and onto the microphone. And definitely somebody that just made for a really great, interesting performance, and in a totally different way than, say, like a band like Goaty Hook, which was just all about, like, high energy and laughs and jumping all around and craziness like that. Like, they got your attention there because you jumped with them too, and just they got everybody excited. And Dave Seyfried, he would just, I mean, it was like stand-up comedy. Like, you'd go to a show and he would, in between songs, he would just say things, people would laugh. He was definitely a good showman. I mean, he may still be making music today. I haven't really talked to him in a while. But yeah, I
want to invent time travel just for the purpose of seeing concerts throughout history. To get tinnitus due to listening to loudspeakers, very loud concerts, but also just so I could, even if it's just like I'm a ghost kind of time traveler, or I could just sort of be in the crowd and observe shows. That would be amazing.
You realize with today's technology, if you did create a time machine to go back in time to see all various different shows, you could bring along, like, earplugs or something, and you wouldn't get tinnitus.
Well, yeah, it's too late. So, but the idea
I
is,
already left them behind with the case
yeah,
of plutonium. So
yeah.
I'm.
Oh yeah, but that's the idea. I mean, I would love to just go back there because we had again, it's living in nostalgia is dangerous, but it's still fun. So we are very lucky to have what we had, especially when it came to all those bands that we had at Reclamation, that we had at JAVACASA. We had at all the different shows throughout the area. It was kind of really amazing that we had bands that were coming from all over the country who contacted us, um, because contacted us, not contacted Underground Productions, which is the bigger independent music thing that run by Kurt Weaver, and a subset of Creation Concerts. They were contacting us to say, "Hey, can we play at your venue?" Because they've heard about what was going on in our scene, and because we had such devoted crowds that would come out and see shows and appreciate what was going on. It was kind of amazing to us. It blew our minds. When I mean, we eventually, I mean, our dream way back when we were pining about trying to get the on stage was hope. We were like, man, it wouldn't be great if we got poor old Lou to play here. Oh, that'd be awesome, poor old Lou. It was never going to happen just for us, but guess what happened? Underground Productions got poor old Lou to come in. They needed a good venue. It wasn't going to happen at LMH. Let's have it at JAVACASA. They had it on stage. So that was our very first show at the on stage. It was a co-show with Underground, and we filled that place up. Them, Soul Food 76, and Jawbone Hill.
You know, that was such a good show.
And I have video footage of it.
Yeah,
I do, and it has to be converted. I could
probably find myself in there because I was standing very close to the stage on the right side, so I could probably if I looked at the video, I could probably find myself there. But I was really excited to see poor Lou, and actually that was one of the bands that I mentioned before that I didn't know that there was anything going on in Christian music that was more for people that were into like independent or underground or punk rock or whatever kind of music, you know, that wasn't the mainstream. Is that that when I was introduced to local Christian music out of Lebanon, one of the people, well, the guys that I ended up becoming friends with in Jawbone Hill at the time were like, "Oh yeah, well you need to hear this band and this band and this band." They're like, "Here, check out this. This is the Prayer Chain. This is poor old Lou." And actually, Keith Wilson, I think, might have been the one that introduced me to poor old Lou. And Keith Wilson was the singer guitarist of Mack the Coffee Man.
Yeah.
Movies with Heroes. But yeah, I mean, that when I heard poor old Lou Mind Size, I was just like, nothing sounds like this. It's this funky kind of music that I really didn't know how to place it. And the singer's voice, see, I can't even remember the name of the singer. Do you remember the name of the singer?
Oh, I should.
Anyway, his voice was just so odd because it was kind of almost like this low growl, but at the same time it was singing. It was just it was such an interesting voice, and you never would have picked out his voice and said, "This guy's a lead singer." Like if you heard this guy just singing, you'd just be like, you know, well, I don't know. His voice was just so unique. There's just everything about that band was just so unique, and it was just so much fun. And I remember seeing them for the first time was probably Cornerstone. It would have either been 94 or 95, either before the year before Reclamation or the year of right after we'd done the show that summer. But oh my gosh, I was so excited. I was so excited to see them. It was such a good show.
Yeah.
And then at the onstage theater at the my girlfriend at the time, I'd gotten her into poor old Lou. And you know, it actually was a funny coincidence, and maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't, but have you ever heard of the band Sunny Day Real Estate?
Yes.
Before? Okay. So Jeremy Enoch, the singer of Sunny Day Real Estate, used to sing with all the members of poor old Lou, and their band was called Tears for the King.
Oh yeah.
And,
I didn't know about that.
And this the girl that I was dating at the time, she made me a mixtape like before we even started dating. As you know, one tends to do, and in that era, it was all about making mixtapes for people that you liked and putting on songs that you liked, that you wanted them to hear. And one song was a song by Sunny Day Real Estate, which I mean that's a whole different story. That I became just a huge Sunny Day Real Estate fan just based off the weight of the one song that I heard on that mixtape that got me into everything else I listened to by that band. But then I played for her Poor Old Lou, and they released after Mind Size, but I think before their next album Sin, maybe it was right after their next album Sin, they released an EP called Straight Six.
Mm-hmm.
And on that EP is the song Digging Deep.
Yep.
And Jeremy Enoch sings on that. And when I listened to it, while I was still dating this girl. The song came on, I'm like, wow, that sounds a lot like the singer of Sunny Day Real Estate. And I looked up in the credits, I'm like, that is a singer of Sunny Day Real Estate.
Yep. And
it's just, so then like there was this really odd connection because I was really into Poor Old Lou and she was really into Sunny Day Real Estate. We got each other into these bands. And yeah, it was this connection that I don't even think at the time that we were dating, I don't think I'd found out that Jeremy Enoch was in a band with them beforehand. It was just like odd. It's like, wow, they must know him. Because here he is on this CD, and it wasn't as easy as like you couldn't just go to Google because the internet wasn't around at that time to just go on a search engine and be like, Jeremy Enoch, members of Poor Old Lou, and you'd be able to find instantly like, oh yes, of course.
We did have
go to the
AOL.
Wikipedia page.
We did have AOL now. Come on.
That's true. Well, yeah, I mean, you could talk, you could chat or whatever.
Yeah, go to the chat room, the Poor Old Lou chat room, and go, hey, does anybody know Jeremy Enoch? No, it's as far as you can go.
Yeah. At the time, I did not have my first email account until a couple years later in college. I didn't have the computer we had at home was just like a DOS-based word processor. So it was just, type on the screen, a type on a black screen. So, I mean, at the time, like I didn't even have the resources. If anything, I guess you would look in magazines or zines to get your information if you didn't have a connection of chat rooms and stuff like that through AOL. But yeah, that was just anyway. I mean, that was a little bit of a sidetrack, but
we've gone really far away.
It just kind of just goes to show you that at least definitely for us, that period of time there was just so much cool stuff going on musically, and yeah, I mean, and that brings it back to Reclamation too. It was just like, man, I'm so excited about these bands. I want to get other people excited about these bands too. I don't know if I did turn on anybody new. I mean, probably the people that came there that went to see a band that they went there to see, got to see other bands they didn't already know about. But I don't know if I, with all the flyers that I hung up, I don't know if I got anybody new to that show. It may have just been all existing fans of all those bands that knew about the show and came out. I like to think that I attracted a few new people there based on all the flyers that I hung up, just because that would have been cool, and that would have been part of the whole reason I did it, because I wanted to introduce people to the music. But anyway, regardless, it was a good day. A lot of people came out. People definitely had fun. And it was definitely a lot of bands that I was really excited about being part of that whole show. So
one of the things that we learned when we were doing JAVACASA is that it wasn't necessarily that we were trying to minister to anybody or to the crowd itself. A lot of the times it was our purpose was to promote, support, encourage the bands. The bands themselves then can do what they need to do, whatever they want to do, because we trust that they're going to build that communication. Nobody's there to watch me stand in front of them to go, hey guys, great show tonight. We got Cody Hook coming up next week, but here's another band that you might like. Have a good time. Nobody wanted to hear me barble on stage for 2 minutes about announcements and no stage diving. Nobody wanted that. They weren't there for that. They were there to see the band. So I did overcome some incredible stage fright by doing JAVACASA. That's one thing that I accomplished for myself. But beyond that, but I think I was also, no, we started 95 also as a year we started Purple Door. So I was doing announcing on Purple Door stage. I managed one stage there too. So yeah, so that's one thing I learned. But beyond that, our purpose was to really serve the bands, and the bands serve the people, and the people hopefully served each other. And that's what we got out of it.
I think anybody that's ever been involved in promoting shows or even just like obviously the people that hand out flyers. I mean, like bands that had street teams, things like that. It's always about like the cool thing about music and art and fandom is just that you get so excited about something and you want other people to experience it too. You're like, oh, I love this. You should totally check this out. And sometimes you introduce somebody to something new and they're just like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then sometimes you introduce somebody to something and they're just like, oh my gosh, dude, you're totally right about this. This is amazing. And that was what was so cool about doing shows. It's like, man, I really like this band that I booked on this show, and I really want other people to like this band too. I really want people to have a good time. I want them to kind of feel the joy and the emotion that I feel when I listen to this music. And it's, yeah, I mean, just there's a lot of good stuff about just being involved in music. Playing music is obviously really great, and it's really great when you're in a band and you get good response and you get people talking to you that are excited about your music. But man, being able to share stuff that you really like with other people, it's just so cool.
Yeah. We were fortunate. And unfortunately, a scene like that does not exist, as far as I know, back in your area. I live in Los Angeles now, so I'm far, far from that scene. I can now go see 100, maybe 1,000 different bands any given hour of any given day here in Los Angeles. There's within a 30-mile drive, I can see so many different bands, and I don't see any bands at all. I don't go out to concerts. I saw more bands in a time when I was promoting them than I do now. It's kind of sad.
Well, I mean, but that's kind of the way it goes. I mean, if you're spending a lot of time promoting, you're already around the band. So why in your time away from that, how often are you going to go out to other shows? I mean, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I mean, in this area, there's been an ebb and flow over the years as far as what's been going on. I would guess I've been out of the music scene for a long time now. I've played music here and there, but as far as any scene goes, I've definitely been out of the music scene proper since probably about 2006 or 2007. I have gone to a few shows here and there, and I've definitely met people that are playing music and that are part of the whatever current music scene is going on. For a while, Lancaster's music scene was definitely just a high concentration of metal. Just a lot of just
metal.
really like, yeah, just a lot of like really gruff screaming / singing style metal. I mean, that's August Burns Red came out of the scene, the Lancaster music scene. So stuff like that. But there is a lot of actually, there's kind of like a resurgence happening right now of mid-90s emo music, that like younger bands are adopting the styles of bands that were on like polyvinyl records, or some are kind of reminiscent of Sunny Day Real Estate and some sub pop stuff. There's kind of a little bit of a revisiting to that going on right now in Lancaster. There's a guy that I know that his name's Ben Roth, who's a really excellent musician, really great songwriter. He's really into playing with other bands, touring with other bands, but he also over the last few years started up his own recording studio in the area called the Kaleidoscope, and he has shows there in the studio, just like kind of like private shows, and they kind of have their own little scene going there. But yeah, I'm kind of more of a homebody now. I mean, I like hearing about what my friends are doing and new friends are doing on Facebook and whatnot as far as music goes. But Yeah, I don't really make it out to shows that much. I'm kind of more content just to like hang out at home with the family these days.
Well, yeah, that's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. But yeah, that's the thing. I just feel that as much as I would love to think that such a thing could have been passed on and that evolved possibly from what we had been doing back then, and then in the mid to late '90s, it just sort of petered out. And I do blame Napster, because at that point, why come to a show to get that cassette or that CD when you can just download it for free somewhere?
Well, I mean, there's that as far as owning the music and having the music, but there's definitely people that I think that have always loved being a part of that, of the live music thing. I don't think that the music download killed live, just the experience of seeing a live band. I mean, I think that's always been ever going out. Like if it just turns into a kind of a thing where you just watch music on the internet or listen to music on the internet, and nobody ever sees like live bands anymore, and it's just more of like whatever like recorded technological music experience that you might experience on a computer. I don't know, man. I mean, I could see people maybe like giving up on like just guitar rock or something like that for a while and just moving all into like electronic music or whatever, but I don't know. I mean, there's just something about going to see music. I just don't think that's ever going to go out of style.
Hopefully it won't go out of style. But I would love, like I said, I would love to, if our world had continued beyond us, but it seemed that it petered away after a while when the 2000s hit.
And, yeah, there was definitely a lull that happened for sure.
I mean, there's go ahead.
I was just gonna say, music's a young man's game.
Yeah,
it's for whippersnappers.
Unless you do,
and then the people
shows.
That true. Well, and then obviously, if you're a band that started when you were a whippersnapper that's still going, like U2 or the bands that are super old that used to be young people once, but that have never stopped playing, obviously that's still going on too.
They're super old with super piles of money that can keep them healthy, and they can, Bono can break his hand and never play guitar again, but he can still sing. So that's they're not going to replace him. So
no, they can't. You can't have U2. If Bono couldn't sing for U2 anymore, there would be no U2.
Exactly. They did replace Adam for a time after he got arrested at an airport for having marijuana a long time ago, but he couldn't play in the U.S. for a number of years. But that's about it. Yeah, that was back in the 90s, I think. Maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah. 90s, late 80s maybe, I'm not sure. But that ended that. I think we've gone pretty well off the rails here.
So, yeah, I mean, you may want to edit some of this down so that it's just Reclamation stuff, or
no, not at all. Because I think I think we're speaking to Reclamation was an aspect and a symptom of, I think, what I think I really enjoy talking about is that era. And I tell people that I was involved in music. I was a concert promoter way back on the East Coast, and sometimes I say I was in Christian music. Sometimes I say I don't bother mentioning that. But either way. When I eventually got around to telling them that not all of that music that you call Christian music is bad, they don't really believe me. So they assume that it's equated with, if it's Christian music, it must be just horrible garbage, and that it's only meant for certain people, those people. But I have thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of songs to prove otherwise. Not all of it's great, but not all of it's good. A lot of it's really amazing.
Well, I think that what's happened is that there are definitely, I think what's happened is what my perception that probably wasn't true of the time before the early 90s of Christian music is that what's happened again is I think that there are definitely bands that are Christian bands, but they're definitely more in the mainstream market again. And that anybody that's it's more like anybody that's playing the independent music scene now is a band full of Christians.
Sure.
They're not a Christian band. You know what I mean? They're just like, you
Sure.
may go to see a show now, which is cool, which is kind of what I wanted to happen when I was trying to bring these Lebanon Christian bands into the Lancaster County area music scene of independent music that's going on there. Is just like, let's throw all this music together and just like, and then maybe hopefully get some bands from this area playing together that aren't Christian based bands. I think that what ended up happening is the people that stuck with kind of the indie music scene that may happen to be Christians are just playing music about life, and sure, their spirituality has an influence on the music, but there's not really, from what I've seen at least right now, there's not really a pocket of indie or underground sort of local Christian music scene, because music, thankfully, has kind of melded into one where it doesn't matter if you're Christian, or even if your message may sometimes be may be more lyrically towards the Bible or Christianity. It's that music is just kind of fit in, and it's just kind of all independent rock, and then there's mainstream rock. But the mainstream rock is, you've got your mainstream regular radio rock, and then you still have your mainstream Christian radio rock.
Right.
But I think otherwise, or at least to me, and I could be totally off base because, like I said, I'm out of touch with the music scene.
I am too.
But it seems like the independent bands are just whatever. It doesn't matter if you're Christians playing music, or it doesn't matter, where you come from. Those bands just kind of like play shows and play tours together. And is Cornerstone still around? Is that still happening?
It does not. They
Okay.
ended that a number of years ago. Yeah, that's they shut that down. I think it just devolved into 500 screamo bands at the same time, all playing all 15 stages at the same time. You can't see that many consecutive and that many bands, screamo bands, all at the same time. It just can't do it.
Yeah,
You just get ahead.
got to break it up a little bit.
Yeah. Eventually, there's an acoustic band, but then they start screaming, and that just gets worse. I mean, for the longest time, Cornerstone was the foundation for a lot of bands to break in. They'll just bring their own generator, they'll bring their own sound system, and sit up next to the skate ramp and play. I think Goaty Hook even did that. They played next to the skate ramp.
Yep.
Their first year, so it eventually worked them into other stages, and eventually blew out their final show in 2002 with a side tent finale, with everybody that you can imagine in attendance, band members coming back to play, and they made a live recording of it. So, Goaty Hook, rest in peace. Yeah. That's how they went out. Although they did do a little reunion in Philadelphia not too many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't really kept up with what's been going on with them.
Yeah, it's mainly just Joel, Adam, and Jamie, because when they ended, it was just a threesome.
Okay.
So, just a 3-piece. So yeah, that's the legacy of our era. Legacy of our era back in our day when we used to have concerts.
Back in my day, guitars had 6 strings. They may still have 6 strings. I don't know.
I haven't touched one in years. Do everything in GarageBand. But yeah, so I think we pretty much nostalgia the hell out of this thing. So
yeah.
It's great to be able to look back and see that, like I said earlier, that what we did was not a waste of time, and it was actually kind of cool, whether people believe it or not.
Yeah, I'm glad we that this finding this video footage got got us kind of talking about that time again, because it definitely had a lot of memories come up since we first started talking about making this happen, which obviously took a few times to get the technology right. But
I know technology and I still couldn't get it right. That's so sad. But it also helped me dig through the videos, trying to see if there was that Quickie Mart or video or anything else might have existed that I hadn't given to you, and it turns out it doesn't exist. But I found a ton more concert videos that I hope to convert soon and add to this channel. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it.
I'll look forward to seeing what the channel has.
Hopefully, Tooth and Nail or Borlu, whoever else that I bring out will not sue me for posting such videos, but we'll see. I'll just have to take them down if I can't put them up. But it'll be poor quality. Trust me, it won't look good. It probably won't even sound good because it'll be off of VHS. So I have to just break out my old VCR. I have an SVHS, a super high quality VHS, just packed away somewhere collecting dust. So just have to hook it up and see what happens.
Cool. Well, thanks for making this happen.
Yeah, thank you for chatting and just reminding us what Reclamation was all about, and what we were all into. Gave me a good reason to go down memory lane. So, all right. Well, thank you much, and maybe we'll do this again sometime.
Or maybe get some other people. Maybe get some other people involved if it doesn't. Crash the system.
Yeah. Assuming now that we know how to do this and we don't forget, but we'll see. All right. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
See ya.
Yeah, see ya.